Kleenex and deodorant. So I thought this fulfilled everybody's needs. DCS was attracted to Banbury because of our pro-growth strategy and the way that we put in place the right conditions to grow this business. We love DCS in Banbury because you've really joined in with the community. I remember during the pandemic when you made and distributed a great deal of hand sanitizer, much of it for free. I also remember the medicines that were taken to Ukraine, and I know that some people right here will have had a hand in that. And I remember the 30,000 trees that you planted. Who had a hand in that? I bet some of you did, to enhance our local environment. But of course, what DCS is famous for is a relentless focus on delivery and growth. And that reminds me of somebody I know quite well. So I'm here to introduce the Prime Minister, who is also relentlessly focused on delivery and growth. I got to know him when we were new young MPs. He impressed me so much. He was a standout politician of our generation for his energy and his honesty and his dedication to service. In Banbury, we don't tolerate flim-flam. We like straight talking. We're proud of our hospital. We know we need services close to home. We're really proud of our improving schools and education. And we want somebody who talks straight to us. The Prime Minister is that man. So I'm very pleased to introduce I'm not. He's just coming. He's on his way. I think he's been packing boxes, which all of you will know a lot more about than I do. Whoa, crikey, what are you doing to him now? So in Banbury, in this campaign, we have been thinking a great deal about how we plan our town for the future. So we really, really love the fact that much of our business is like you. It's got about 300 employees. We're based on family originally businesses, a lot of them which originate in food and farming businesses, or like you, things that you partially manufacture, things that you partially distribute for other people. We've got a whole range of businesses like that. You'll be familiar with what Jacobs Sow Egberts have done in the town over the years. Now they've followed a bit your model and they're going a lot more along the delivery lines, which it suits us very well. We also have really great homegrown family businesses, often with a food and farming background. You'll know Fine Lady Bakeries, obviously, and they distribute all over the country, but also newer bakeries and the flour distributors Haygate. So we've got a wide range of businesses in this town. One thing we're really proud of is the fact that we have pretty much full employment. And what we want to do, and the reason I was so pleased to encourage DCS to come and join us, is the quality of the jobs that we provide needs to improve. And that's why this is a really great example. So the Prime Minister is now here. I've now seen him. So you can stop listening to me. I really do want you to focus, though, like DCS, on those two words, delivery and growth. And that is what DCS is all about. It is what this Prime Minister is all about. It plays to his strengths. It's what I've seen him do in Cabinet. He is honest. He won't talk rubbish to you, and you can ask him anything. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister.
Morning, everybody. Morning, everybody. Can I just start by thanking Dennis and Mike for welcoming me here this morning, getting to spend a bit of time with all of you, and say thank you to all of you for what you're doing. Because of businesses like yours and the incredible job that you're doing, we are now the fastest growing economy anywhere in the advanced world, faster than France, Germany, Italy, including even America. And as you are demonstrating, we've also overtaken the Netherlands, Japan and France to become the fourth biggest exporter in the world. And that is down to the success of businesses like yours. So thank you very much for that, and congratulations. And also, Victoria, thank you for the warm introduction. There you are. Victoria, I tell you, she works her socks off for you down in Westminster. She's a very dear friend of mine, and I know she was born at the Horton, and it's a point of massive pride for her to be able to represent her hometown. So will you just join me in saying thank you to Victoria for everything that she does? Right, let me get straight to it. I know there'll be many of you who would have supported us in the past who are a bit more hesitant about doing that this time around. And I get it, right? I'm not blind to the frustrations that many of you will have. It's been a difficult few years for all of us with COVID, Ukraine, and we certainly haven't got everything absolutely right or made as much progress as we would have liked to. But on Thursday, it's not a by-election, it's not a referendum about the past, it's a really important choice about our future as a country. And the choice you make will have enormous consequences for you and your family. And I'd urge you to think very hard about it. And you would have seen all the polls and what they're saying. And if you give a blank check, or we end up collectively giving a blank check to the Labour Party, that is going to have a massive impact on you and your finances, your family, and indeed our country. And many of you will care about issues like making sure that we can control immigration. We won't get any progress on that. You would have seen that if you watched the TV debates the other day. Well, making sure that we invest in our security and defence, keeping everyone safe in a more uncertain world. Again, that's not what will happen under a future Labour government. Getting to net zero, which of course we all care about, and I want to get there for my 2 daughters, but we've got to do that in a sensible way that prioritises energy security and all of your family finances and doesn't hammer you with extra bills. Those changes I made would be reversed. And crucially, perhaps most importantly, given the few years we've had economically, it means that your taxes would go up by thousands of pounds. Right? If we give Labour that blank cheque, you won't be able to get it back, and all of you are going to end up paying much more in taxes. And I don't want to see that happen. Right? So when you think about voting on Thursday, if you vote Conservative, it is a vote for lower taxes, because I believe you all work incredibly hard, and I want you to enjoy the benefits of that hard work and keep more of your money for yourselves to spend on what you want and to spend on your families, right? That's the kind of country I believe in. So we'll keep cutting your taxes if we're elected, as we've done this year, and we'll make sure that we cut taxes for people at every stage of their lives, not just all of you that are in work, but those people who are setting out on their own, small businesses, self-employed. We'll also cut taxes for them. For young couples wanting to own their own home, because that's something that many of us will have experienced. I want everyone to be able to fulfill that aspiration. So we're going to abolish stamp duty for first-time buyers effectively. And families. I think family, like for all of you, for me, is the most important thing in my life. And we want to keep supporting families and expand the generosity of child benefit. And then pensioners, because I believe that if you work hard all your life and you put in, then you deserve dignity and security in retirement. And even if many of you are not in that bracket today, you'll have parents, you'll have grandparents, you want to know that they're going to be looked after, which is why we're going to introduce a triple lock plus to make sure that the state pension is never ever taxed. And again, that's not something that the Labour Party will do, which means for the first time in our country's history, pensioners face paying income tax on the state pension, which I don't think is right. So look, there is an important choice, and be in no doubt that a vote for the Conservatives on Thursday, vote for Victoria, vote for me and all of us, is a vote to lower your taxes and build on the progress we've made. And in conclusion, before I take your questions, I'll just say this, that my grandparents came to our country with very little. And a couple of generations later, here I am, standing in front of you, with the incredible privilege of having been not just your Chancellor, especially through a difficult time with the pandemic, but also now your Prime Minister. And that's why I love our country so much. I'm so grateful to everything that it's done for my family. It's why I do this job. And that's why I work so hard to make a difference to all of your lives in the same way that our country made a difference to my family's. And that's what you'll always get from me. Right? So you know that I share your values about opportunity, about aspiration, about rewarding hard work and family. I want to make sure that we deliver financial security for all of you, and I will take the action that's required to do that. And most importantly, we will always stand up for you. Stand up for what is right for you, stand up for what is right for our country. So that's the choice ahead of you on Thursday. As I don't sleepwalk into something that you haven't thought properly about. Think very hard about what it means for you and your family. And in spite of what all these polls say, every vote matters. You can make the difference. You can vote to make sure there isn't a Labour supermajority and actually there's not an unchecked party in power with a blank cheque to do what they want. You can vote for lower taxes, for secure borders and a more secure future for all of you and your families. And if you re-elect me and Victoria, it will be a privilege of our lives to continue serving you and trying to make a difference to all of you and your families. So thank you very much for having me this morning. Right. Okay, I know Victoria said I'll take any and all questions. Right, so there we go. Let's see. We got some first couple of questions. Yes, Miss.
So character and integrity are my key focus in how I lead my team here at DCS, with transparency and remaining true to my principles being fundamental to this. So my question to you is, how are you going to convince me that the character and integrity of your government will change?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Right? And in some senses, policies are all good and well, but character and integrity come before all of that. So let me tell you a few things about me, right, that are important. I am someone who has the courage of my convictions, right? I stand for a certain set of principles, a set of beliefs, and I actually appreciate that not everyone will agree with all of them. But I'd rather you know where I stand on things, and I'll be honest and transparent with you about that. And you've seen that throughout my career, right? On all the big things, whether it's net zero, whether it's migration, whether it's defense, whether it's on economic policy, whether it was on what used to be very controversial and saying, you know what, sex means biological sex, because that's how we protect women and girls' spaces, right? When I first said that, it was a big thing, right? But that's who I am. So you will always have that for me. I'm not going to just change with the weather on these really important things. So and I am totally fine to accept that people don't always agree with me. I think the second thing is being accountable, right? And saying where you lead your teams. And when I got this job, I set out 5 priorities, right? And actually someone was interviewing me on the radio or TV this morning. They're saying, oh, you set out these very clear priorities and let me have a go on how you've done at them. And I'm like, yeah, I actually did set out 5 very clear things that you could hold me accountable for. That was quite rare for a politician to do, right? And I'm okay for people to say, well, like, how have you done? That's the whole point. Again, I just want to be open with you. Like, that's what I was going to focus on. And we can go through and see where we've made more progress or less progress. But again, that is who I am as a person. And the last thing I'd say is, look, I'm not afraid to do what I think is right for this country, even when it's not politically convenient. And you saw that during the leadership contest a couple of summers ago, when people didn't really want to hear what I had to say about the economy and the right way to do it when I was in that contest. But I kept going. Everyone said, you're going to lose and all the rest of it. But I was like, well, I think this is right. And even if people don't want to hear it now, I want to make sure I argue the case. And look, I was proved right then, right, on that big economic debate where no one thought that I would succeed. And that's why you can trust me now when I'm warning you about the dangers of what Labour would do if they were in power with our economy, right? I had the courage of my convictions then to say what I thought was right, even though it was tough. And I'm doing the same thing now because I don't want all of the progress we've made over the last 18 months to be washed away and for all of you to pay the price in higher taxes. So there you go. I hope that's enough of an answer to your question. Right, next, who have we got? Yes.
DCS finished our fiscal year on Friday.
Oh, right. Congratulations.
DCS finished our fiscal year on Friday with sales of £350 million. We've grown every year for the last 30 years by putting the customer at the heart of how we do business. Finding growth is becoming increasingly hard with the economy working against us. My question to you is, what are you going to do to restore economic growth?
Right. Well, first of all, 20 years of uninterrupted growth and £350 million, that's worth a round of applause, isn't it? Right? Well done, all of you. Right. I'm going to say one very quick thing, and that is tax cuts. Because I believe if we have a lower tax economy, that is a higher growth economy. Right? There's 2 tax cuts, which I want to focus your attention on, that is good for your business. One is cutting taxes specifically for your business. Right? And that's what we did a little while ago. So for businesses like yours that are investing in things, expanding in warehouses, in distribution, in the plant, the machinery you've got here, we now have the most generous tax treatment anywhere in the world. In fact, hundreds of leading businesses call that tax cut that we gave, it's called full expensing, to give it its technical term. They said it was the single most transformational thing that we could do for growth, productivity and investment in our country, and we delivered it, the Chancellor and I, and you're starting to see the benefits of it because businesses like yours now, when you look at expanding or growing, you're like, I get a big tax cut if I decide to put an extension on and grow my business. So that's what the first thing we do. And the second thing is, look, you're in a consumer-oriented business, and that's why tax cuts for people are so important. Right? When people are working hard, if we can cut their taxes and they've got more money of their own, they're going to spend it. And they're going to spend it on things that you will supply. And that's how we can also grow our economy. So tax cuts for businesses that are investing and doing the right thing, and tax cuts for every family at every stage of their life so they can spend more of their money on the things they want. And that ultimately also helps. So those 2 things are really important. Again, there's a choice for you in this election. Right? If I'm not standing here next week, we won't get those tax cuts. And not only that, Angela Rayner is going to introduce French-style union laws into this country, right? 70 of them, in fact, right? 70 different new regulations, and that is going to mean that there's more strikes, that's going to damage our economic recovery, and it's going to cost jobs, because that's what those types of regulations do. Like, we don't have French levels of unemployment in this country, right? We've got a growing economy. Like, all of that would be put at risk if Labour are in charge and bring in all those regulations. So that's a very clear choice for you about growth. All right, next. Who have we got? Sir.
So
you've come prepared, right? Well, I can see that.
A little bit. So as you've heard, it's our 30th anniversary this year. I'm very proud to have grown every year over those years. The cost of doing business, though, over the recent governments has just been increasing consistently. And when you mention tax cuts, corporation tax has increased from 19% to 25%, which does put quite a burden on us and kind of hampers us investing for growth. So along with inflation, interest rates, national living wage increases, that all does put pressure on us. So I'm interested to know why the Conservatives will be the business for, or have the policies for growth going forward.
Yeah. Well, look, it's a little bit the answer to the previous question, right? We have given a tax cut on the things that drive growth, right? And so if you are genuinely investing, your business or any other business, when you're investing now as a company in expanding, growing, expanding your factory, putting in a new manufacturing line, buying a piece of kit or equipment, expanding the warehouse, that's what attracts a very significant tax cut, more generous than any other country, right? And that's how we'll drive growth long term, and that's where we've targeted our tax cuts. But look, the cost of business has been high, right? There's been global supply chain challenges. You've all been experiencing that. Inflation's been very high, and that's why I prioritize bringing inflation down, right? You know, it's not a technocratic thing. It's inflation that was causing all the challenges, not just with your business, but with all of your household bills, right? All for the last couple of years, everything just going up and up and up. Now, because of everyone's hard work and resilience and our policies, we've got inflation back to normal, back where it should be at 2%, which also means now interest rates can start to be cut. So you are going to start to feel the benefits of that. Those pressures of the past few years are now dissipating, and that's the foundation that we have to build on. And that's why I think Thursday is so important. I don't want to undo the progress just when we've got through the toughest bit. Right now we're cutting your taxes, inflation's back to normal, energy bills coming down, interest rates to follow. Like, we're on the downhill slope now, right? And we can look forward with confidence and with optimism, but not if there's a change in government and all those things are reversed and your taxes end up going up and unions are in charge and public sector pay is causing inflation to spiral and mortgage rates won't come down. Like, that's the alternative, right? And I don't want to go back to that. I don't think any of you do either. Right, next, who have we got? Yes, miss.
Hi, I've been back 12 months now post my maternity leave. DCS has been fantastic at allowing me that flexibility that I need as a working mum, but also enabling me to forward my career with them. Now in September, my daughter will qualify for the 15 hours childcare. However, due to inflationary cost pressures and the cost of living crisis, my nurseries actually increased their fees. So any relief we would have experienced come September will actually be pretty much eroded. So I'd like to know more about what your party are doing to support parents that want to return to work but are faced with limited nursery spaces, inaffordable childcare options and increasing household bills.
Yeah. Is that your first? First. Yeah. Congratulations. What's the name? Gracie, very nice. So both Victoria and I have two girls, so we're big girl power champions in our families. So much so even our dog is a girl. So, but right. So look, I talked a little bit earlier about family being important to me. Look, it's really important to me. Like, I was raised in a very loving family. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, you know, my parents' love, support, and sacrifice. And I want to make sure that we support families like yours, right? That are juggling kids, childcare, careers, right? That's what Mon families are wanting to do, and I want to make sure that you know that we've got your back when you do that. And that's why we're expanding free childcare. So what we're trying to get to, which we will get to if we're re-elected, is for every family, working set of parents, to have 30 hours of free childcare from the time that their little one turns 9 months old and you finish maternity all the way until they go to school. And we're in the midst of that rollout at the moment. So some of it is just kicked in April, another bit is kicking in September, and then next year the final bit will come in. So that you have your little one, you finish maternity, that's 30 hours of childcare all the way until they start school, which was the big gap that we had, so to support mums and dads like you around the country. Now, in terms of the rates, you're right, and that's why we've increased them, and we've agreed a formula with the sector to make sure that they keep going up, and we're now paying, apparently, a little bit more than the private sector rates are, which is probably okay, just about, and then you're seeing the number of places expand, and the sector's been quite happy because we've agreed with them how we'll continue to increase the rates. But look, fundamentally, it comes back to values, right? Family matters to me. Right, it matters to all of you, and I want to support mums like you who are juggling that career and your kids. And with 30 hours of free childcare from 9 months all the way until Gracie starts school, hopefully that will help. The other thing I'd say is one of the tax cuts that I mentioned is one for child benefit. Right, so I don't know if you know, those of you that have kids that know that we have this very complicated system where if one of you earns over £60,000, the whole thing gets taken away, and it's not very fair because you can have two people who are earning a little bit less and they keep it. I see lots of nodding because everyone knows what pain it is. So what we're going to do if we're re-elected is make it work, look at your entire household, you and your partner, and all the way up to £120,000, you'll be able to keep the full child benefit. Right? So instead of that charge which taxes you now, that will be a big change. It's worth about £1,500 in full, that tax cut. So again, that's something that I'll promise to deliver as well. Good. Right, we got one more, I think. Yes, last one.
As a family, we've been waiting for 3 years on the NHS waiting list for an autism and ADHD assessment. During that time, we've had to pay for a private assessment through a clinic, which was arranged within a matter of weeks, but at a cost of £2,000, which many people will struggle to afford. There are already long waiting lists in Oxfordshire, and the number of people awaiting a diagnosis are growing continually. So with shocking statistics such as 22% of adults with an autism diagnosis being out of employment, what are you planning to do to reduce NHS waiting lists, but also to support those people who do have a diagnosis through education and into work?
Yeah. Well, who was the, if you don't mind saying, who were you waiting for? Was it
my son?
Your son. How old is he?
He is 12 now, so he's just started secondary school, and that was why we wanted to get the private assessment.
No, I can understand that, and it's a very similar age to my two girls. So look, there is a challenge in the NHS, and one of the areas we haven't made as much progress as I would have liked is on tackling NHS waiting lists. Children, as you've heard me talking about, are really important to me, and making sure they get the support they need is vital. So one of the things that we're doing, before I get into the macro stuff, you said you chose to go private. Right? So one thing we're actually doing now is making that available on the NHS in more and more areas, because I don't have any ideological disagreement with the private sector, the independent sector providing NHS care. Right? There's, again, a difference between me and the Labour Party. So what I've told the NHS is, look, if there's a private provider that can do the thing, whatever it might be, whether it's an assessment or a hip replacement, and they can do it at the same tariff rate that we have, the price, then people should be able to choose where to get their treatment and get it done there. And that is now being rolled out across the NHS. It's being put on the app. So if you or your family get referred, or your parents, grandparents get referred for some secondary care, you should make sure you ask your GP, hang on, Prime Minister said, I should be able to choose where I get this treatment and get a list of different providers, because if I don't like the wait at the one you normally would use, I want to look and see if there's somewhere else I can go that can do it faster. And that is now helping to actually bring down the waiting lists, and we're rolling it out to more areas. So look, it's not going to work overnight, and I'm sorry it wasn't there in place for you, but that's just an example of the kind of thing that will help in the future. And look, more generally, I come from an NHS family. Right? I was at pharmacy yesterday, and my mum was a pharmacist, and I grew up working for her. I know how important healthcare is to all of you, and that's why we're putting record amount of money into it, hiring more doctors and nurses, and also doing things differently, using private providers, as I said, but also using pharmacies. So now, if Gracie or your son or anyone else, or you've got ear infection, sore throat, sinusitis, you don't need to see your GP anymore. You don't need to sit there and wait for that appointment. You can just go straight to your pharmacist and get the medicines that you need there and then, and we're going to roll that out to more conditions as well. So it's just kind of an example of some practical things that we're doing, thinking a bit differently so that you and everyone else can get the care that you need. And the last thing I'd say on that is, it is challenging for the very simple reason that we had a pandemic where, I'll give you this one number, 6 million referrals for treatment didn't happen during the pandemic. 6 million, right? And that's what we're catching up with right? So in spite of us doing more and the NHS doing an extraordinary job right now, more than they've ever done in their history, like, it just takes a bit of time as those 6 million referrals come back into the system and we're having to work through them. And look, that pressure will dissipate over time, I promise you that, and you're now starting to see waiting lists start to come down over the last few months, which is positive progress, but we've got a long way to go. But the most important thing for you to know is I care, the NHS is very safe with me, I grew up in an NHS family, and I will always make sure it's there for you, and you have the peace of mind that it's there for you and your families. Good, all right, I'm gonna get back to it. Thank you so much for having me. Really nice to see you, bye.